it's the Women of Wrestling podcast here. It's June 2014, and the last time we did a show was February.
Yeah, we kind of forgot spring existed.
Yeah. It's show 67, and we're here with Sassy Stephie as our guest. And it's cool because we love Stephie. We haven't spoken to her on the record, as it were, for years. In fact, the last time she was on the Women of Wrestling podcast, Ring Bells didn't even exist.
Yeah, so that's how far back we're going. We did speak to her for a Fight Like a Girl interview in August of 2011.
Yeah, still almost 3 years ago.
Yeah, it's bad, but it's not as bad.
Yeah, sure. But I mean, Stephie's been wrestling all over the place, doing stuff in Shine and WSU and Shimmer, Femme Fatale, Remix, a whole bunch of different places. And she's got cool stuff to talk about, including the fact that she was proposed to at WrestleMania, which is always going to be an interesting story. We'll hopefully get that out of her at some point as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, now she's living in Montreal, living up the high life, and we figured, well, what the hell, we'll ruin her evening by talking to her for a while.
Before we get to that, though, cards on the table as to where we've been.
Oh, yeah, I've been in the hospital. I've got a sick note and everything to prove it.
Yeah, Stu nearly died of pneumonia.
I did. I don't want to go over this all again. I mentioned it in the Fight Like a Girl interview I did with Addie Starr a little while ago. So yeah, we have still been producing some audio, even if it's not been the official Women of Wrestling podcast. But yeah, I did come back from America with the worst case of Shim virus that there's ever been, which morphed into pneumonia, which morphed into a 2-and-a-bit-week hospital stay, and in theory... Well, not even in theory. I am still off work, so I'm still kind of in the sick zone. Is that a thing?
It is now.
Okay, I'm still in the sick zone. So yeah, everybody pity me and send me money.
Meanwhile, I have no excuse. I've just been lazy.
Yeah, but no, even before the whole Shimmer thing and the whole pneumonia thing came along, we were trying to get some shows sorted out, but. You know, we're reached a difficult point in the show now where we've talked to a lot of people already, and trying to get new guests is getting increasingly difficult. So you know, we tried to get some stuff around the WrestleMania time, just didn't work out, and you know, we're going to keep trying to get new guests. But we'll also have to, you know, revisit some of our previous favourites as well, and that's exactly
which we've got no problem with as well.
That's exactly what Stephie is, especially when it's been such a long time since we've last spoken to her.
Yeah, by the way, if there's anybody who you really keen for us to speak to, just let us know. We've got our Facebook, which is facebook.com/ringbells. We've got Twitter, which is @ringbells. You can email us, which is ringbells@gmail.com. You can leave a comment in the comment section on the website. Just get in touch with us and tell us who you'd like us to speak to. And also get in touch with them and say you'd like them to speak to us.
Yeah, why not? You may as well harass both ends of the scale.
Yeah, then we might sort of have this wonderful coming together and you get your wish.
Yes, but here's the thing.
Don't spam them.
No, don't. We have this one show today for you, and we have plans. And it's only plans at the minute. We've got plans for several more shows over the next, I don't know, say a couple of months. So hopefully we will not be anywhere near as tardy about coming back with the next episode as we have been with
that was the
one.
kiss of death right there.
Yeah, I know, but you know, we've got a guest list that we want to have, and now it's just a case of getting them. But I think we'll do pretty well.
Yeah, so we've got all that coming up. We've got the website still being updated regularly. There's tons of stuff on there. Go in there, read it, comment, say things. We've got the soapbox there as well, so you can have your say and talk about what you want to talk about. The roundup's there with the week's news. We've got talking points, all that kind of jazz. You know, just get involved. Dip your bread.
Yeah, there's loads of things happening in wrestling, thankfully. So that's always nice to know. There's nothing as bad as when there's a few days of no news.
Yeah, it ain't boring.
Yeah. But no, this is episode 67 of the Women of Wrestling podcast, as we've said. And we may as well go straight to the meat and potatoes and go straight to the interview.
Yes, let's!
Overexcited Lee's always the best kind of Lee. Someone who we're very glad to bring back after, well, about 3.5 years, or over 3.5 years since she was last on the main show. Sassy Stephie is back, everybody. Stephie, how you doing?
I'm doing well. I can't believe it's been that long already. I mean, I'm pretty good friends with you guys, and that surprises me that it's been that long.
You have no idea how bad we feel.
Well, no problem.
Can I just say,
problems.
we've talked, we just haven't talked officially.
Right.
So it's not like we've ignored you for all that time. I swear to God.
No,
So,
I mean, you guys know what's going on in my life. I keep in contact with you guys and see what's going on with you. So, yeah, there's definitely our friendly conversations, but I guess not in a professional capacity.
No,
Professional, my ass. It's professional.
Well, we try. Stop letting the genie out of the bottle, Lee.
Yeah, I was trying to put you guys over. That's what we do in wrestling. We put people over.
Oh, thanks.
Or at least in my part of my profession, that's what I do.
We will get to that.
We will get to that. But, first of all, we got to talk big stories. We got to talk timely stories. We got to talk news stories. And we got to talk lingerie fighting championships.
Yeah, we do.
Lee, you're getting too excited again.
Can't help it.
No, look, seriously, this is an interesting thing. It's not something that usually I would say would fall within the auspices of the Ring Bells website by any means, but it involves some pro wrestlers involved in cage fighting in Las Vegas. And it involved you, funnily enough, young Miss Stephie, under the pseudonym of Brenda Juice Jones. Tell us about this. How did this come about?
Well, I was emailed on Facebook, actually, and someone was asking, if I would be interested. And I don't remember if the lingerie part was originally specified in the first email, but I'm
guessing not.
Probably. So I said, Vegas, I'm in. You let me know the dates. You let me know what you got to do, because I love Las Vegas. It's one of my favorite places. Plus, if I get an excuse to go and visit my wrestling mother, Allison Danger, I am all about it, because she lives in and about the Las Vegas area. Mm-hmm. So as time went on and we discussed, different details as like flights and all that, they sent me an episode of the TV show that was a pilot that was done actually in Vancouver, Canada, I believe, or maybe Edmonton. Anyway, it was done over on the west coast of Canada somewhere. And I was like, I was unaware that this was lingerie. And then I went through my emails, and apparently I was just really, really excited about the Vegas part that I kind of overlooked that. So, you see Vegas, your, eyes light up. And so we talked about it, and, there's several other women in the wrestling business that I know to be strictly professional wrestlers as well, like Melissa, Mia Yim, Allison Kay, Taylor Made, and then Kat Power. Actually, I suggested Kat to them when one of the other girls that was supposed to do it dropped out. And so I was like, I don't know about lingerie. And they're like, well, here's the deal we made with a lot of the girls. You can wear your boots, you can wear your knee pads, and you can wear your normal gear, as long as it's, kind of on the shorter side, which, 95% of the time I wear pants. So I was like, no problem. I can find something. And that's what pretty much the other girls did as well. We all kind of found something that kept it looking like it was our, at least somewhat like gear, and not too over the top, with the lingerie part of it. And then, it was MMA, which I had never done before. But the day of the show, there was a guy who does professional wrestling and MMA. He came in the ring, rolled around with us for a couple hours, taught us some things. And then basically we just went out there and, just kind of winged it on, what we wanted to do in the ring. And I was wrestling Mia, which is Megan Baby Doll there.
Oh, yes.
And we had a really great time. Like it was very similar to wrestling for me, at least, because like I was nervous in the back, but like as soon as I got in the cage, I was like, all right, let's do this. I'm ready to go. And it was like all the nerves just kind of melted away. And like it was also very bizarre because they weren't very character based like wrestling. So that was a big difference. Mm-hmm. But they wanted us to play up the crowd a little bit more than a regular MMA show, and they wanted me to kind of be babyface and Mia to kind of be heel. So that was very, very different from the both of us because I'm usually the heel and she's usually the babyface. But I mean, we went out there, we had a blast. Melissa was in the cage with Allison Kay, and Taylor Made and Cat Power were in the ring together. And I'm telling you, both their matches was before ours, and I watched both of them. And I mean, we just went out there swinging, and all of us had a great time. And as far as I know, they plan on having all 6 of us back, and actually asked us if we could suggest any other particular women in the wrestling business that would like to do it, because there were other girls on the show who were not trained athletes in some of the other matches. And in 2 of the matches, 2 girls got hurt, legitimately really badly got hurt.
Really?
So yeah, they were saying that we're probably going to try to keep it more to athletes than maybe the models or dancers or what have you from there. So it may be developing, to be a pretty big thing within the professional wrestling community. I mean, that remains to be seen. This was, the first show that I've been a part of, and I really had a great time. They really took really good care of us, made sure that, everything was taken care of as far as, where we were staying, getting to and from the venue. I mean, they really treat us really, really well. I've never been treated in professional wrestling the way that I was treated this weekend with lingerie championship or fighting championship. So it was a great time.
Steph, I'm confused.
Yes.
I've got to say that I'm confused because, you're talking about this, they got in touch with you and they made contact with you, and then they went through some MMA training and things like that, and that's all fine. I fully appreciate all that. But you're a former LFC champion, according to the poster.
You've got an LFC record of 14-3-0 going into this show as well.
I mean, you've beaten some ass.
Yeah, you have.
Well, there's some
fudging.
Go on, get out of this one.
Fudging going on a little bit. I mean, when it's your first show and you're in a place, especially like Las Vegas, where everybody is promoting everything. I mean, you walk down the street, you're just being handed, you don't even walk a block and you're handed like 15 different flyers to different bars or clubs.
Yeah, I was going to say, I remember that.
We had a stack of flyers for hookers.
Yeah, so, in a town that is so largely, entertainment to begin with, I think they put that on the poster to let people know that it was more distinguished than it actually is, to try to get more people there. Because, when you say, LFC won, people might not be interested. Oh, it's the first time, whatever. I'm not going to go to that because there's the show down the street that's run for the last 30 years that I want to go see or something like that. So, and I know I'll have a good time at that. That could totally be a big cluster, So I think that might have had a lot to do with it. But then again, maybe there was a Brenda Juice Jones before me, and I just fill the shoes better than she does. I don't know.
Well, like a Dallas recasting or something.
This is genius.
I love it. It's the best retcon I've seen outside of comic books, quite frankly.
And it really was fun, and I've said that, but. Going in there and learning the MMA, there's so much like in those couple of hours that like I would never have thought about as far as professional wrestling. But I can't wait till the next time you guys get to see me in the ring, because I'm going to take a whole bunch that I learned there and throw it in the ring. Like, obviously there's certain things that are more entertaining than others, but there were some submissions. The guy was like, it's MMA, but you could still totally do a Cobra clutch. And I found like this way that I could reverse Mia when she was on top of me, pounding me into the Cobra clutch. And I was like, I could use this every day in the wrestling ring. So it's going to, I think the girls that do it from here on out and they get to, get into the, I guess, octagon. It's so weird for me to say that because I would never, like, I've always said, like, I was like, I don't want to do MMA. I don't, like, professional wrestling is great because I'm walking in there and yes, there is a chance of getting hurt, but that person across from me isn't intentionally trying to, like, break my arm. You know what I mean? Mm. But I'm like, MMA, like, that could happen at any second. Well, it could happen in wrestling too, but that guy across from you is really, like, gunning for you. And I'm like, no, I'm good. But this is, I mean, it's a great cross between professional wrestling and MMA coming together, at least in our matches. Like I said, there was, I guess I would call them the fluff girls, the girls who were more in just the bra and the little underwear and stuff like that. And, that appeals to a certain crowd. But I think that when it came to the crowd reacting, they could tell who were actually, people who were in a fighting kind of lifestyle and who were just there doing kicks and punches and maybe a couple of submissions that they just learned, that week or whatever.
This is what I wanted to ask, though, is that as far you're talking about, like, you go in there and you're fighting and stuff, and there's you're worried about the risk of getting hurt. What I wanted to kind of ask was, is it, is it kind of real, like mixed martial arts, or is it fake, like boxing?
Well, I believe all sports are predetermined, just to put that out there. Like, I truly believe the Browns are going to go, because, everybody who has ever listened to me talk before or follows me on Facebook or Twitter or whatever knows I'm a huge Cleveland Browns fan. And I think this year they're at least going to the playoffs, because I go back and I think, and I haven't done a, scientific study or anything on that, but can you tell me the last time there was a movie about a particular team that came out and that next season they didn't go to the playoffs?
I don't know. No.
Exactly.
I'm pretty sure next year the Browns are going to win the Stanley Cup, though.
The Stanley Cup. Well, I think that's the wrong sports, dude.
I don't know.
Are you sure about that?
No, I don't know.
I'm sure.
Are you sure the Browns are playing the right sport if they're not very good at it?
Well, see, that's what I'm saying. I think it's predetermined. I think there's a reason why the Browns are always the underdog, why we always are not. I mean, not that we're not always winning games. I mean, we're mediocre, I guess, at best. But I think this year with Kevin Costner's movie Draft Day, I think Browns are definitely going to go to the playoffs. And then you add in Johnny Manziel, Johnny Football, whatever you want to call him. And I say Browns are going, at least to the playoffs. I'm not saying Super Bowl. I'm not in denial. I'm not naive. I'm not delusional. I'm none of those things. I'm just saying at least get to the playoffs.
I'll be honest, until you said football and Super Bowl, I was wondering what sport we were talking about.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know how I love my sports.
Yes. So yeah, no, that's interesting. So what you're suggesting is, though, is just to go back to what you've learned at LFC. You're going to be going all ground and pound on some of these girls when you go back to wrestling, then?
Well, I don't know. I mean, ground and pound is probably not as entertaining as some of the high flying moves that some of the other girls do. And maybe I won't get into the ground and pound. Maybe I'll gradually, incorporate it. But the submissions, there was one that he taught me, and I was just like, oh, yeah, this is definitely coming to the wrestling ring with me. So I'm not going to even go and tell you what it is quite yet, because it's nothing flashy. It's nothing, crazy, but it's something unique and that I've never seen before. So I really, really think it'll be great.
Does it have a name?
It doesn't.
It needs a name.
We don't know what it is yet. We can't name it until we know what it is.
Right. You have to see it. I could tell you how it starts, but then that kind of gives it away. So I just kind of want to let it go, and then, maybe I'll break it out. I don't know. Maybe not at Shine, because that's the next super big promotion I'm going to be a part of, because I'm in a crazy match at Shine. I'm really excited about it, but there will be a lot going on that I don't know if a submission will really be able to happen in this kind of match.
Well, now you mention that, before we go off the LFC topic, we should remind people that the LFC is going to be available on pay-per-view. Lee, details, please?
It's taking place it's being shown for the first time on July the 11th. So
Yes.
Keep an eye out for it then.
Check your local systems and availability and so on.
Yeah, this is
do we have a price?
Some money.
It's going to cost some money on the 11th of July. If you're interested, you will find out.
And that's pay-per-view, not iPay-per-view.
Is it not going to be available online?
I think at some point in time it's supposed to be, but not until after it airs.
All right, fine. Okay, but you mentioned a big match in Shine, and we might as well go to that. And we'll mention the fact that we've got a big match coming up on iPay-per-view, 27th of this month, and that's going to be at Shine 20, where you, along with your buddies in the SNS Express, are going to be involved in a 4-way tag team match with the Buddy System, the Kimber Bombs, and the team of Legendary. And the idea being that the winner of that match will get a tag team title shot against the Lucha Sisters of Mia Yim and Leva on the same night.
Yes. And I am very excited. I don't know how many times I was at Shimmer and I was I don't know if I would say begging, but I was like in my head wishing that I would get an opportunity to be in the same ring as Maya Hisaka. So when this match got announced, because I had no clue, I just knew I was booked for the show. When it got announced earlier today, I was like flipping out. I was like, because this is a woman that, you know, she's been there, done it. I mean, there's a reason why her tag team is called Legendary. Her and Brandywine, both of them are very accomplished, crazy accomplished. And I love learning from anybody who has, you know, more experience than I do, or even less experience than I do. I mean, just a couple of weeks ago, actually a couple of months now, I had a match with Solo Darling, and she goes, "Why don't you do this?" And I was like, holy crap, that's awesome. You know, into one of my submissions I do, the Moodle Lock, she suggested something, and I was like, wow, I've never thought of it that way before. So I shouldn't even say more experience, because even girls who are coming up in the business, like a Solo Darling, have like these amazing ideas that, you know, I just haven't thought of. But to get in the ring, it's going to be amazing. I mean, I've wrestled every single person in this match except for Malaya and Brandy, so I'm so very excited.
And the potential for a title shot at the end of the night as well. You had a title shot actually against the Lucha Sisters at the Wrestling Odyssey show in New Orleans on WrestleMania weekend, of all places.
I did. That was a blast. Mia and Leva are two insanely different people and characters, but they come together and they just make this amazing tag team together. And, you know, I actually lost to them in the tournament to declare the first ever Shine Tag Team Champions. Mm-hmm. And then I also had the match with them at New Orleans at Wrestling Odyssey show. And that time I was using my tag partner, Nevaeh. Jessie Bell Smothers wasn't there that weekend. But I think we gave them a run for their money. And I think that's why we have been asked to come back and, you know, decide who is the number one contender for, you know, the Shine Championships for that night. Because, I mean, if you look at it, those 4 teams, everybody is absolutely deserving of it. Now we just got to put up and see who comes out on top so that we can decide who, you know, is going to take on the Lucha Sisters. I say it's going to be Jessie Bell and I, because, I mean, we have Nevaeh in our corner, although she's going to be very busy that night too because she has Candice LeRae. But I'm very excited.
Is there a difference in the way that you approach like the tag team stuff, seeing as it's a team of 3? If your partner is Jessie Bell or if it's Nevaeh, or is it a case where you can kind of work the same way regardless of which partner you have?
Well, for the most part, I'll still work mostly the same way. But there's certain things like Nevaeh and I, we've known each other since I pretty much got started in the wrestling business. So I've known her a great many years. And so there's a lot of things with her and I that are nonverbal communications that we can just be like, okay, this is what we're going to do next. And we don't even have to speak it out loud to one another. Whereas Jessie and I, we've only been together for a short amount of time. And, you know, we're clicking very well together, but we don't have quite the same nonverbal communication system going on that me and Nevaeh do. But, I mean, Jessie and I, you know, we were undefeated in Shine for, God, many, many months. I think 6 months or so, you know, together. And that was, you know, when we were first together. Now we've been together a little over a year or so, maybe almost 2, I think. So we're really starting to get into the flow of things together as well. And in fact, when they first told me they were going to tag us together, I was like, why? Like, I barely know the girl, you know? I was like, is it because we have red hair? But then they must have seen something in Jessie and I that we didn't see, because, you know, they're on the outside, looking at us. We're on the inside looking out. We're like, we don't see what the, you know, connection is, but it's just clicked together. And, you know, as soon as Jessie and I get on great nonverbal communication thing, I think it's going to be just as great as me and Nevaeh. I mean, but for the most part, I still wrestle the same. I mean, there's certain moves I can do with Nevaeh as like double team stuff that I can't do with Jessie because Jessie's quite a bit taller than I am, where Nevaeh is maybe just an inch or so taller than me. So, there's a lot of height differences between Jessie and I, but, other than that, we still pretty much work the same way.
You like being involved in these 3-woman teams, I've noticed over the last few years. The SNS Express is currently your thing in Shine, but for a long time you were very much known as being 1/3 of the Midwest Militia, which was a big deal for quite a while. Specifically, I mean, not only in WSU, but specifically in WSU, that's probably the place where the team was most well known. The Midwest Militia are kind of dead now, at least on screen, aren't they? I mean, as far as in front of the cameras are concerned, you guys don't team up anywhere now, do you?
Not really. There's a lot of travel issues involved with that now.
You don't. You don't all live close to each other anymore by any means.
No, we all live very, very far apart. We used to live. Jessica Havoc used to live 20 minutes away from me, and then Allison was about 2.5, 3 hours. But on the way to Jersey, she would come to my house. Jessica would already be there, and we would just go from there. And it's, I mean, basically a straight shot on one highway pretty much all the way there. And so we were very close-knit. I mean, that's why the Mick, the original owner of WSU, put us together. He was like, you 3 are always together. You guys, have good conversations all the time coming out here. I've never heard you guys. Because, there's sometimes when you put a bunch of women in a car together where you just start to get on each other's nerves just because you've been around each other for so long. And that never really happened between Jessica, Allison, and I. We were always having a good time, always, laughing and enjoying each other's company. And, that doesn't happen very often, in wrestling especially. So we, when he put us together, that was great. And then he built us up. I mean, if it wasn't for Mick, I mean, who knows where Jessica, Allison, and myself would be, because he built us up into the people that we are now. I mean, other people, we're obviously in control of our characters, but that was a time that the 3 of us really, I think, blossomed into who we are now. And we just kind of molded that into us individually now, because WSU, I have an issue with Jessica, and I'm aligned with DJ Hyde. And then Allison's my tag team partner. Well, I lost the tag title when I was by myself because Allison got hurt, and Jessica screwed me over, causing Kimberly and Annie Social to win the one belt. So Allison still has the other belt. So Allison and I are so cool. She understands that, I lost the belt, but it wasn't necessarily my fault since Jessica decided to lay me out flat. And then, Jessica and Allison have their issues down at Shine. And then I also tag occasionally with Jessica at Shimmer. So, I mean, we're all still somehow in the mix of the Midwest Militia, but there will never be a Midwest Militia again.
Yeah. I mean, you're right, though, as far as what you said, though. That was a team that really took all 3 of you and really moved you all up in your career. As far as like both your position on the show, your feuds that you were involved with, the storylines you were involved with. I mean, you guys got to fight in a War Games, for crying out loud.
Oh, and that's still probably one of the highlights of my career is that match. I mean, I was scared to death, and
no kidding.
Mercedes Martinez was on the opposite team, but she's a lot more spiritual and religious than I am. But I even went up to her. I said, before we go out to this match, they're building the cage or whatever. I was like, can we do a prayer? Because that's how nervous and scared to death I was. I was
really?
Like, let's just all get together. Yeah, because I mean, it's no secret pro wrestling, is not exactly 100% real. I mean, we go out there and we're hitting each other legitimately. Right.
No, wait, stop,
I'm not breaking like any unknown like rule or anything, Everybody knows it's 2014. But, we still go out there and we want to take care of each other. And in a situation like the War Games match where we were introducing the machetes, we had handcuffs. Mercedes took the one bump off of the top rope into the ring and, you know, gave herself a stinger situation. You know, we want to go out there and we want to protect each other while still entertaining everybody. And so, and there was, it still angers me to this day. The biggest bump I think I've ever probably taken in my life is I was fighting with Mercedes in the corner, and Alicia came underneath me and put me in a power bomb, and then Mercedes did the flipping blockbuster. So I was on somebody's shoulders. It's not like I was standing on the ground. Like, this is a, you know, very different situation. I'm not, and you guys can attest to this, I'm usually flat on the ground, and I don't usually leave it for very, you know, very long.
Oh, your feet
so for me to be
yeah.
so for me to be up on the top turnbuckle fighting with Mercedes on the cage, and then Alicia doing that, and it was one of the biggest bumps of my career. And I watched that match back, and I always get to that point. It makes me so angry because whoever was switching the cameras at that point in time switched it from me in mid-move to Brittany Savage just like chilling in the corner. And I was like, oh, the biggest bump of my career is not even on the DVD. I was like, that's such a bummer. But, you know, it's one of the biggest things in my career, probably will be for a long time. I mean, it was the first ever women's War Games, and as far as I know, it's the only one so far. So I'm sure someday somebody's going to come up with another idea where it's going to work out perfectly to that. But at that time, Mick was just, you know, especially with that match, just build us up so much, the six of us in that match, and just, you know, let us take it to the cage for 40 some odd minutes and just annihilate each other.
You were feuding a lot with Brittany Savage around that time because your turning heel to join the militia kind of turned her babyface as well. So, I mean, what was the kind of dynamic? Did it change in the fact that you know, you were the face and she was the heel, and then it flipped to the other way around? Did it make a difference?
I don't think so. Brittany Savage pretty much works the same way, either heel or face, and I guess for the most part, I do too. I don't think anything changes much with me. It's just the amount that I yell at the crowd. It's either, yay, I love you, or shut up, you know. That's really the only thing that changes, you know, for me anyway. I try to be a little bit more bubbly when I'm babyface, which sometimes is a lot harder for me than it sounds. But you know, I don't know why anybody books me as a babyface, but there's several places where I'm a babyface, and I just don't get it. People love me, and I just don't understand.
You're like a hero to children everywhere.
I guess so. Like at Remix Pro Wrestling, I turned babyface in, I think, October. Kind of a tweener-ish, because I wrestled Maria Kanellis from WWE. And after the match was over, I was blatantly heel the entire time. I picked her up. I gave her a hug. And even the commentator came up to me afterwards. He's like, I thought you were going to turn around and clothesline her back down. And I was like, well, no. You know, it was a good fight, whatever. And so it kind of turned me tweener. And then the next time I was there, because I asked the promoter, you know, when we were going out, I was like, you know, how do I play this up? Am I the tweener? Am I the babyface? Am I heel? What's going on? And he's like, well, I'd like Athena to be baby, you to be tweener, and then Melissa to be heel. And I'm like, okay, no problem. So we go out. As soon as I go out, the crowd like erupted like I was Hulk Hogan in like 1985 or something. And it was a sold out crowd. There was like over 750 people there. So to get that kind of reaction for me is like, I was like, are they cheering the right person? You know, because I'm not used to that. But I don't mind it. You know, it's just takes a lot for me to get into that character, I guess.
Let me ask you about WSU when we were just talking about it there a moment ago. You made mention a couple of times of the former owner, Sean McCaffrey, the Mick, as he was known.
Yes.
And obviously you've been very close to him in the past, and I know you're still friends with him. And obviously WSU changed ownership and has had kind of a new era, and it's had quite a big change as far as just the way the shows are presented and as far as who's on the shows and so on. And some people have very positive things to say about that. Some people have very negative things to say about that. I know that, you know, you probably have quite a good relationship with both sets of people. So, I mean, from somebody that's been involved the whole way through, how do you see WSU now to how it was under Sean beforehand?
Well, I think there's definitely a huge change in the product, not only in the girls that he's using, but WSU under the Mick was more gritty, more hardcore style, more in your face, I guess. And WSU now is more, it's more of like, it's not anything like Shimmer, but it's more Shimmer like as far as that's concerned, because it's not so hardcore. You might have one match that, like is a gimmick match or whatever, but a lot of them are just, going to go out there and you're going to do a good wrestling match with a good story, just like Shimmer. Mm-hmm. So I think it's changing a bit that way, but the changes with WSU, because I don't know, as far as like things that are announced out in the public, I don't know what all is announced out in the public, but I think you're going to see a lot more changes with WSU in the next probably 6 to 8 months. And so, yeah, and I'm kind of right now, I'm very pro old WSU than I am now. But it's not that I hate the WSU that's now. I think the roster is better. I think that there were girls that should never have been in the ring to begin with the old WSU. And now those girls aren't there, and I think that's amazing. But I think the way that, and there's a lot of people who have really bad things to say about the Mick. But for me, he always paid me exactly what I asked. He always did exactly what he surprised me a couple times with some things. But, he always kept his word to me on everything. And that was, our bond. And then we have a lot of sports things in common as well. And I'm sure, you've probably seen my 8 million tweets to him when the Rangers were playing the Habs in, the Stanley Cup semifinals for the Eastern Conference. But
that's basketball, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. It's basketball.
I'm learning.
But yeah. But the new WSU, I knew Drew for a good many years prior to WSU because he was around the Cleveland scene a little bit with AIW and Mega Championship Wrestling, doing commentary and stuff like that. When he took over, I wasn't quite sure where he was going with the product. And but I kind of vouched for him because I was one of the few people that actually knew who he was inside of WSU, prior to him getting there. So, he's changed the roster. He's changed the style up. He's changed the production up 1,000,000%. Obviously, that was not the old WSU's strong point. The production now is just unbelievable. And that's great because that's what people want to see. They want to see, because not everybody can make it to the show, so they want to see this great production on the iPay-per-views and stuff like that. So I think it's great that went that way. And now there's other people coming in also with the WSU, so that's why I said there's still going to be more changes. There's going to be things integrated, and I don't know exactly how it's going to go right now, but I'm excited to see where it goes, and hopefully they keep me along with the roster to keep going with WSU. Because it would really be a shame, because I think me, Jessica, and Allison are the only 3 regulars still from the old WSU, if I remember correctly. Because you got to think...
Well, Jessica was banned for life.
Oh, well, yeah, Jessica was banned for life. I keep forgetting about that. I still don't understand that whole thing, but, I don't know what happened behind closed doors.
Yeah, it seems like a personal issue, perhaps as much as anything else, but yeah, fair enough. So, yeah, I guess you and Allison might be the only 2.
Mm-hmm. Because I know Rick Cataldo just made his return.
Oh, that's right, he did.
But he wasn't there for a year or so I think we're the only...
Possibly Nia.
Oh, yes, Nia would be exactly, right. And Marty Bell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's still one or two.
There's still a few.
Yeah.
But I think that a lot's going to change in the next couple of months with the WSU, and I think, hopefully it'll be for the better. At least that's what I'm hoping for.
As far as the Havoc thing's concerned, and again, you say you don't really know what's going on as far as her banning for life and all that's concerned, but, I mean, like last year, for example, the pretty major promo you cut on her at the Queen and King of the Ring last year when she didn't make the show was kind of like the kicking off for the Midwest Militia falling apart. And the reason that you cut the promo on her at the time was because she hadn't turned up for the show. You claimed that you'd been professional and she hadn't. And I just wanted to say, it seems that more and more often, getting to WSU show seems to be a bit of a trial for people. And you seem to come across that curse yourself not too long ago when trying to get to the show, you were almost killed by a horse. Yeah,
it's been insane.
What's going on here?
Last year, before I cut the promo on Jessica, I think it was last February, Allison and I were unable to make it. And I was actually thinking about this, and I don't know why we were unable to make it. I know she had car problems, but I don't know why I couldn't have made it because I have my own car. So I don't know, maybe somebody just told us to stay home. I don't remember the exact situation around that. But we didn't make it to the show. And then the next show, Allison was in Japan. Marty Bell was unable to attend, and Jessica wasn't there. So I was the only champion in the building. And so, I kind of took an extra jab at Jessica because, she's my friend. And, if you're my friend, there's nothing that I wouldn't say about you that I wouldn't say to your face. And since she wasn't there, I said it on iPay-per-view. And, it wasn't exactly to her face, but the point got across. And then the next show, I was previously booked. It was a lot of miscommunication between me and Drew at that time. So I was already booked for the other show. And so Jessica took it upon herself to, fire back at me when I thought we had already squashed stuff behind closed doors. But, it's wrestling. It happens, whatever. No big deal. Jessica and I will have our time to deal with it in the ring and hopefully not outside of the ring because that would just be bad news for everybody involved.
No survivors.
Yep. Yeah. Pretty much.
Before we move on to anything else, because you mentioned it.
Stand by. There's a story about a horse here to be told.
I forgot about the horse story.
I forgot about the horse story.
You're telling all this thing, and I thought you were building up to the horse story, and then you completely just left it.
I was.
I was blue-balled. Go on.
Sorry. I was building up to that, and then I forgot where I was going, so I just stopped. It happens frequently.
Fine.
I get dropped on my head for a living.
That is true. So, I'll give you that.
Anyway, so then the next show, which was this February, must be a thing with February shows in me and WSU. I was driving to the show. Again, Allison couldn't make it because she got injured. So it was just Marty Bell and I that drove out to the show, and everything was going smoothly. We were right on time. Marty Bell and I were having a good old time in my car. And one thing about me is I cannot stand taking toll roads. I think it's double taxation. I think it should be illegal. I think toll roads are the biggest bunch of BS in the entire world. Now, there's sometimes you can't avoid it. Like if you're driving around in New York City, like you got to cross bridges and they cost $25 or whatever. You have to do it. But there's a road, and coming from my house, you can take 76 all the way across Pennsylvania, which is like $45 in toll roads one way. Or you can take route exactly. So it's costing me $90, round trip just to do that. That doesn't include gas and food and all that. And food's higher on the toll road because if you pull off the toll road, you're going to have to pay another toll. So anyway, again, I hate toll roads.
Yeah.
So we take Route 30, which goes a little north of, we don't take 30 all the way. We get on 30 eventually, which is just a little bit north of Route 76, which is the toll road. And 30 goes through like a bunch of back little towns through Pennsylvania, little cities. There's no big cities that I can think of right now on 30. So we're driving through it, and part of it goes through the Pennsylvania's Amish country. So it's like 10:15 in the morning. We're driving to the show because these shows start earlier than, their afternoon shows. So we're driving, and I see this horse coming down the way, but I have a green light. I have the right of way. I'm thinking, oh, it's a horse and buggy. The horse is going to stop. No problem. So I continue about my way. When I'm about a quarter to halfway through the intersection, I realize this horse isn't stopping and it's going to hit me. So I put on my gas just a little bit. So because Marty Bell is in my passenger seat. And, you know, if the horse would have hit that door, I can only imagine what would have happened to her. You know, she's so little, and I mean, she's tough, but she's little, and, you know, glass was flying everywhere and all that. So it ends up hitting my back door of my car. And I'm calm and collected. I've been in accidents before, you know, so I pull over quickly, and there was another guy who stopped behind me, put up some flares. And I noticed in my rearview mirror, because I'm trying to figure out what else is going on, because why would the horse not stop? Like, did he just not obey his, you know, the guy pulling back on the reins, or what's going on? So I noticed the horse is kind of flailing in the intersection, but it gets back up. Like, you know, when you're in shock, you can do a lot of things that you don't normally do, I guess. So he gets back up and kind of goes off into this side parking lot that was empty. And, I go over there. It's like the middle of February, so it's freezing. I now don't have a back window. The horse is caved in my back door. There's horse hair and fur and guts and blood all over the back of my car. And so I'm just concerned about what's going on, and, you know, how is this going to be handled, because this was not my fault. I had a green light, you know. So I get over there. The guy gets out of his horse and buggy. Another guy stopped to help. And the horse ended up passing away because it was basically this like trauma right to his chest. So of course, you know, he's going to, you know, be in some kind of trouble.
I thought you were going to say you punched the horse.
No. Every time I see a horse, though, now I want to. I am absolutely deadly. I loved horses prior to this. I hate them now. I'm so afraid of them.
Can we make that the story, that the horse hit the car and then you punched it and it died?
Yes, you can do that.
Awesome. That's the new story. Go on.
But the guy helped the horse go to rest, and then the guy who ended up pulling over and putting the flares up was used to be an EMT. So he was looking at the guy, talking to the guy in the horse and buggy, because he already talked to us. We were completely fine as far as physically. Marty Bell was a mess, though. She was crying. She's calling up Drew on my phone, like freaking out, and then when the horse died, it was even a worse situation, because she just didn't handle that very well. So
she better not listen to this podcast then. Go on.
Yeah. So the guy talks to the guy from the horse and buggy, and it turns out that the guy has a history of seizures, and he had a seizure at this point too. So that's the reason why the horse didn't know to stop. Because the guy had a seizure and was completely unconscious. But miraculously, this man was fine. Nothing happened to him. After it happened, he woke up. He came over to me. He goes, "Did I hit your car, or did the horse hit the car?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Well, where's your car?" And I pointed over to where my car was and all of that. And I was baffled that this man had a seizure. And after the impact and my car going past and the horse falling, that this man was still okay. It was crazy. But the police officer took the record, or took, you know, all the information down. And, you know, I even asked him, because I've never heard of a horse hitting a person. You know, I've heard of people hitting animals or whatever, but not usually vice versa. And he said, you know, usually the Amish, if they have horse and buggies, they can have horse and buggy insurance, and that will cover it, but not all of them have it, because, you know, Amish don't necessarily believe in all the things that we believe in. I don't even know, you know, exactly all of the, you know, beliefs of the Amish. And so I was like, okay, so handed into my insurance. They've taken care of everything. So we get back in my car. Now, mind you, again, it's February. It's freezing. There's snow on the ground, and I have no back window in my car. So I'm calling up Drew. I'm like, hey, I'm still coming to the show. We're like an hour and a half, 2 hours away. I'm going to be there because I'm not going to miss another show. And we stop at Walmart. I get a tarp and some Gorilla Tape. And I Gorilla Tape the hell out of my door. Because I figure at this point in time anyway, what's it going to matter if it pulls the paint off? Because they're going to have to replace the whole door anyway. They're not going to be able to, like, you know, suction cup the dent out of it. I mean, there's several dents, and it was a horse, you know. So I put the tape all around the window and made it there, and it made for interesting story that night. Like, even if you watch the, streamwsu.com and you go back and watch it, I'll be like, I made it here even though Allison Kay didn't. I shouldn't defend the titles. I was hit by a horse just several hours ago. And of course, now that is the big joke at WSU. Every time I come out, they're saying Mr. Ed and, various chants of horse things. And I know Veda Scott was doing commentary that particular afternoon, and she said that they made many horse jokes throughout the course of the evening. And then she goes, okay, we really got to stop beating this dead horse. And I was like, oh, burn. But, it was crazy. I mean, who gets hit by a horse? Me, only me. And in fact, I think, Lee, you had just boxed me probably 10 minutes before this happened.
Yeah,
but Marty and I were in a conversation. I was like, oh, I'll get to Lee later. We'll finish our conversation. I'll box him later.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, no problem. Hey, maybe if I would have stopped my car, pulled over, and answered your Vox, we could have avoided the whole situation altogether.
I could have saved a horse's life.
You could have saved me from going through the trauma of the whole situation.
I do like the fact that there's a very pro wrestling story in that, even after all what happened, you taped it up and you got on with it.
Yeah, I mean, professional wrestling, the show must go on whether I'm there or not, and I'd rather make my payday.
So you sabooed your car.
Yeah, basically.
Exactly.
I never thought I'd use sabu as a verb, but there we go.
Anything is possible, especially in the world of pro wrestling.
Indeed. Hey, let's talk about Shimmer for a little bit then.
Okay.
Shimmer, you've got a weird sort of thing with Shimmer in that, oftentimes you're kind of like in the mid-card, you kind of have your matches and everything's cool, and then every so often you have some really good, big, high-profile matches, and I guess Shimmer is one of those places where, you look back and you've had some really big matches in there. You've had a one-on-one match with Hiroya Matsumoto, for example. You've had one-on-one matches with Lufisto and Athena and a whole bunch of people.
Yeah, Athena was on my birthday. That was fun.
That's a nice birthday present.
Yeah, I was like, great, Dave's trying to kill me.
Have an old face for your birthday.
No, he wasn't. Lufisto. Athena is one of my really good friends, and it was really cool with our dynamic that we have because she's obviously a very different wrestler from what I am, and we had a blast. And it was my birthday, and everybody's saying happy birthday, and I'm like, shut up. And at one point in time, Athena is singing me happy birthday while I have her, or she has me in a hold and singing me happy birthday, and I think I inadvertently kicked her in the face. I just wanted her to get off me, but I think I really did get her in the face pretty hard. But it's fun. The Hiroyo match is definitely one of my probably top 10 favorite matches of all time. And, it used to freak me out because they're Hiroyo, and I also have wrestled Tomoka in, which, by the way, just as a side note, makes me very sad that she's retiring in December.
I was going to ask you about that. Yeah.
Yes, that makes me very sad because she's very awesome. We're going to miss a great person in the Shimmer locker room. But I had a tag match with her and Kelly Skater, and I was always really worried, especially before the Hiroyo match, that the communication's not very good between the Japanese and the English when you don't speak any other languages. There's certain people who can speak Spanish, and some of the Japanese can speak Spanish, so they can, talk that way. I'm clueless. I can speak a little bit of Spanish, but not enough for the wrestling world, So I was really worried, but Hiroyo and I, we just went out there. We had a blast. We, did our thing, and it was one of my favorite matches. And then when it came to working with Tomoka, I wasn't as nervous, because it was one of my first times where I had wrestled somebody that I could not communicate with under any circumstance in the ring. If we were talking something in the back, I could ask somebody to, come over and try to translate what we were trying to say if we weren't getting it. And, but in the ring, you can't do that because it's just you and that person, or, Tomoka and Kelly, but, so it was crazy. And, I think that really, the Hiroyo match really tested my wrestling abilities, because when there's a lack of communication, you really have to rely on just wrestling. And that was really a testament. And I am forever grateful because Hiroyo is awesome. She's phenomenal in the ring. And then, you know, for us to not have communication, but be able to still have a pretty stellar match. And I know when I came back to the back from that match, Allison Danger was like, we're going to name that move the abortion, because I'm pretty sure you're never having children again in your life. Well, I've never had one to begin with. But that's how brutal, I guess, I made her, you know, move look. And Danger was just, you know, she was like, are you okay? Because I swear to God, you're never going to have kids. And I was like, yeah, I'm fine. I was perfectly fine. You know, it hurt for that second or so, but after that, it was fine.
I mean, you've had these sort of higher profile matches, but I think one of the ones that I particularly enjoy for your Shimmer is just because it is an example of who you are and what you're capable of doing as far as having great matches is concerned. I think it's the first match where Thunder Kitty really clicked with the Shimmer audience, and it was her beating you essentially with a sleeper hold, and the crowd erupted for it at the end of this match. And I mean, I spoke to you a little bit after that match, and you said that you really enjoyed it. But tell me a bit about that kind of thing and be able to have those kind of matches that can really elicit a reaction from people.
Well, I mean, that's what you get into the business for. You're here to entertain people. And, you know, that match was very simple. And we've had another match since then with AIW where, you know, we we just sit there, we crack each other up because, you know, she wrestles very old school style, and I mix a little modern wrestling, but I'm very basic old school style as well. You know, it's everybody knows Sensational Sherry is one of my all-time favorites, and I wouldn't say I model my wrestling exactly off of her, but there's a lot that I incorporate from her into my wrestling style. And Thunder Kitty, you know, is the same way with the older, even older style wrestlers like the Moolahs, the Mae Youngs, you know, and so forth, so on and so forth. So Thunder Kitty and I, it was awesome. I had a really good time. And even when I came to the back, Lexi Fife was very excited because she was one of the agents for that match. And she was like, oh my God, they just popped for a finish that wasn't like a missile drop kick to the outside or, you know, something ridiculous that is so incredibly hard to do or whatever. She was like, they popped for a sleeper hold. She was so excited about that. And I was like, I'm so excited I could give that to you, Lexi, because, you know, Lexi is another person that I highly look up to and really regret that I never really got the chance to be in the ring with. So it was very exciting. And like when I have my veterans saying that they liked my match or they liked a certain whatever and it elicited a response out of them, to me that's even more special than the fans, even though the fans' reaction is probably more important. But when I get that kind of appreciation from my vets, I think that's amazing.
I mean, just on a side note, I'm kind of getting to that point in my sort of wrestling watching where I'm more appreciating the kind of get down grappling, you know, kind of on the ground kind of wrestling. It's like, for me, it's kind of more headlocks, less head drops these days.
Right.
I don't know. I think it's one of those things that I think it prolongs your career to a certain extent. And then if you want to do those sort of more high flying moves or things that are a little bit more risky, like you put it, you know, you can prolong your career a bit more and then make it special or more special when you do them.
Yeah, see, you know, like I said, I don't ever leave the ground usually. I said that way earlier. But there are certain times where I'll be like, you know what? Now's a good time for me to go do something. Like at the last Femme Fatale show, I was wrestling a 6-woman tag, and I was in with Vanessa Craven, and she picked me up for a powerbomb. I gave her a couple shots to the head, and I did a Hurricane Rana. Never in the history of my career have I ever done a Hurricane Rana, but you know what? I can.
Just out of curiosity, was that caught on camera?
I don't know. I haven't actually seen the product yet. I hope so.
I love this to be your thing throughout your career, is that every time you do a high spot or some kind of big bump, nobody sees it.
I would be very upset with that.
Phantom high spots.
You wait until the next Shimmer show and she pulls out a Sky Twister press and it just turns out...
Yeah, there's just be a shot of the crowd.
Yeah, just Puente's looking the wrong way.
You keep wishing that.
Yeah, that's never going to happen.
There's certain high spots I'll pull out, but... anything crazy is I'll do a cross body off the top. That's about as high flying as I get.
Oh, Stephie, you lack ambition.
I have ambition. I just like my career.
You like your ribs all connected and
Yeah. I've had enough injuries without trying to do any high flying crazy maneuvers that I'll keep the high flying maneuvers to a minimum.
Well, that's an interesting one then. For somebody who does what you might term a low impact style, what's the worst injury you got? Was it the shoulder a few years ago?
Yeah, that would probably be the worst one from actual like in the ring wrestling would be that one. But because I separated my shoulder and it wasn't even anything. I was firing up. I was a baby face, and I was firing up on a girl, and she grabbed me by the head and threw me back. And it just so happened that the mat just happened to be slightly uneven right at that exact spot that I hit. So it just thrusted my part of my shoulder forward while the rest of it kind of sank into the mat and separated it. Luckily it wasn't broken or anything like that. It was just slightly separated. And, that was probably the one that worst that happened in the ring. But I have bad knees because I've been in sports all my life. And when I was 17, I was a cheerleader for 12 years. And the season the summer between my junior and senior year of high school, I was, obviously going to be cheering for my senior squad. And we were at gymnastics practice, and I threw a back handspring, and my ankle just went out from underneath me. And I ended up tearing my ACL in my knee, which is a major sports injury. And so my doctor was like, I know it's your senior year, you want to cheer. And I was like, you're damn right I want to cheer. I didn't cheer for 11 years to get to this point to be told that I can't do it anymore. So he let me cheer football season, and then I had knee surgery to fix my ACL. And then when I started wrestling, I overcompensated for my right knee by using my left knee more, and I've kind of screwed that one up, not as bad, but so I have two bad knees. But that's just from, wear and tear from sports and overcompensating for one injury when I should have been, keeping it even so that my injury could have rehealed on its own.
I remember watching an episode of Penn and Teller's Bullshit where they were talking about cheerleading, and there were just the inherent massive risks that involved in something like that, where people think it's probably less dangerous than other sports that you might be playing at school. Isn't it something that while those other sports you get insurance for things like that, with cheerleading it isn't the case with that, and if you kind of injure yourself, you are sort of on your own?
Yeah, pretty much for the most part, that's how that happens. Because a lot of schools don't look at cheerleading as a sport; they look at it as a supplement to the football and basketball team. They're not absolutely needed, but, there are a lot of high schools that have competition squads. And that year I had actually made the competition squad. I hadn't made it in the previous years because that's a little bit more schedule demanding. And at that time I was trying to actually graduate high school early and start taking college courses my senior year. So my freshman, sophomore, and junior year, I just crammed everything into it as much as I could. All of my, classes I absolutely had to take for graduation. In fact, I was taking like algebra and geometry, like one period after another, just so I could get them all done. So my senior year, I could start taking senior classes. So my senior schedule was a lot more open than the previous years. So I had that time allowance to do competition squad. And then I ended up not even being able to do it because I had torn my ACL.
You and Angela Lane, eh?
I was going to say it's not quite as bad as Angela's with about 15 concussions during her cheerleading career, but
true. Yeah. But I would like to be able to go through school with both my ACLs intact.
I know. I've got so much more respect for cheerleading after talking to some of these ladies in wrestling. It's quite bizarre.
I have respect for it after watching Bring It On.
Yeah, it is a very dangerous sport. Just because you think about it, you're being flipped. Also, some girls, the flyers, are being flipped into the air 15, 20 feet in the air, and they're just relying on two people to catch them. Mm-hmm. That's not an easy, thing to do, especially high school. You think you're not even, completely, at least the earlier years in high school, maybe your senior year, you're completely developed into the human being you're going to be, the rest of your life. You're not as strong as you can be and stuff like that. So it's very scary, and I loved it. I didn't at that point, in my life, I was like, yeah, let's do this. That's great. I had, no fears, stupid kid, I guess. And, after that happened, I was like, yeah, okay, maybe this high flying stuff isn't for me. And then I got involved with wrestling. I don't know how that works, but it happens.
As you do. You're sort of talking about your life at that time and your life now, I guess, at this time as far as your wrestling career is concerned. We've kind of talked about a bunch of the places you work, and I sort of said earlier, sometimes you're a focused performer, and sometimes you're not. Sometimes you're kind of one of those people in the middle of the card whose job it is to put other people over and get somebody else ready for a main event, or maybe work with some of the younger talent and give them a hand up as being a kind of a veteran for them. Where do you kind of see your place in wrestling at the minute? Do you see it as do you still see yourself as a star in wrestling, or is your job the star maker?
Oh, I don't know. I think I'm somewhere in between the both of them.
A little bit of both? Yeah.
Yeah, because, obviously I want to work and propel myself so people will look at me as a main event performer. And then, it's weird to me still because I don't think I've been in the business that long. I've only been in 7 years, where there's people who have been in a lot longer than I have. And, they're like, oh, you're a veteran. I'm like, what? I don't think I'm quite ready for that title yet. But,
it's kind of funny, but I think people definitely do think of you. So we've sort of we've heard, from people, and people want to wrestle you is what kind of the impression that we get from people, because they know you're going to give them a good match. I think probably is the major reason.
Well, that's always the plan. I want to go out there, put the best match on as possible. And, there's a lot of places that, I do feel like maybe I am the person that is helping to elevate the other girls, because maybe especially in the Cleveland scene, because, AIW, that was kind of one of my issues for a while. I don't know, I think 0-8 or something as far as my record was concerned. And I was, elevating the other girls. Mm. And, I'm not in the Cleveland area anymore. I've moved away. So I think that might be part of the reason is, I had to, maybe help some of these girls to get ready for, some of the, higher girls that are going to be coming in that, they're going to be wrestling, because I don't know when I'll be back. I know they asked me for October, but I won't be able to be there in October for various reasons. But, so I think that has a lot to do with it. But, I don't want to just be that person that is helping the younger girls. I want to always help the younger girls, but I always want to help elevate myself as well, because I don't necessarily see myself as a veteran, even though I've been around for, a number of years. I still want to rise to the top. I look to my, like I said, I said earlier, I look to my veterans, Mercedes Martinez, Lufisto, Cheerleader Melissa, women that have been doing it a lot longer than I have. And those are my veterans. Those are who I want to wrestle. Like, when I get in the ring with any of them, it's just, I'm like, all right, now I really got to step up my game. I really got to come out swinging, because I need to put on a great performance, because that's what these women are accustomed to with the, so that's what I want to do every time I wrestle one of my veterans. And I hope that's what some of the younger girls coming into the business, if they look at me as their veteran, I hope that that's the way, they feel like I want to do something great because, they deserve it or something. I don't know.
As far as those younger talents are concerned, who have you enjoyed working with? Like, who do you think's got potential? Who should we be looking out for? And they may well be names that we're already aware of, but who do you think is really good?
The number one person that I think everybody needs to watch for the next probably 5 to 10 years, because she's just unbelievable, is Heidi Lovelace.
Oh, yes.
She is hot, she's gorgeous, and she can wrestle on top of that, and she has charisma. She is going to go very many places if she can avoid injury and, keep the love. Her passion for wrestling is ridiculous. Like, I rode down to Shine with her a couple of times, and her passion for wrestling is just as much as mine, I would say, if not, maybe even slightly more. Because there's some times where I'm just like, sometimes I hate this business. But I think that just happens to everybody, But, she's so bubbly and so wants to learn everything. She's respectful. And to me, that's one of the most important things, because if you're not respectful to the people that you're working with, it's not going to go good. And she respects everybody. And I mean, she's having matches with men twice or three times her size and still coming out looking like gold in these matches. So, I mean, she has probably, out of everybody I've seen recently that's, starting to really get out there in the wrestling business, I would say she is definitely one of the top. And of course, I'll always say Mia Yim as well. I don't think she's even breached the potential that she has. I mean, she's been all over the world, and I think she's maybe 5 or 6 years in. I know she's a year or two under me, and she's just amazing. And she's another person who's gorgeous, has charisma, out the wazoo, and actually has the wrestling talents to back it up as well.
Yeah, in the last year, Mia Yim's just really come on leaps and bounds. I think she had so much potential for a long time, but this past year she's really started to show that potential and really fulfill what everybody thought she could do. It's fantastic to see.
Those are my two highest for sure.
Okay, cool. Hey, tell us about somebody. This is a little bit of a left field question, but
Okay.
There's somebody that in wrestling that Lee and I have been watching for the last couple of weeks, and we've been like, oh, and we quite enjoy seeing this girl. And we did a little bit of research on her because we didn't really know much about her. And it turns out that she's somebody who's been wrestling for quite a few years on the Ohio scene, and you probably know her quite well. She's now in OVW, and that's Mary Elizabeth Monroe. Mm-hmm. What can you tell us about her?
I actually don't know a lot about her. I've wrestled on one show with her, and it was my 3rd year in the business.
Oh, right.
She has been around for a while. Like I said, I've never, besides that one show, I've not really had any conversations or communications or seen much more of her. So unfortunately, I can't give you any kind of special insight. A person who probably could, though, would be Nevaeh, because they were down in the same area. Whereas, when I lived in Ohio, I was 3 to 4 hours north of that area.
No, so she's turned up on OVW TV for the last few weeks. She's kind of like been one of the main performers over there, and she's not someone that we've ever really come across before. And I was just like, oh, okay, she's been around for a few years. She's from Ohio, so was worth an ask.
Yeah, see, I don't have any information. I just know, actually, the match that I wrestled her in was a triple threat between me, her, and Nevaeh. It was on Ladies Night 3 or whatever the one was. It was the when I first started, you guys I'm sure remember the Ohio Championship Wrestling shows that we did.
I actually have a couple of those DVDs. I should probably look and see. There might be a Mary Elizabeth Monroe match on there. I don't even know.
Yeah, she would be on the 3rd one. That would have been me, her, and she had a singles match. We all 3 had singles matches and lost, and then we had a triple threat to get back into the competition.
Okay. Cool.
So that would be the one she's on, because I think we only did 3. I was only on 3, and I was, one of the girls that he trained. So I hope if he had more, he would have booked me.
They've been running them for years. They just haven't told you about this stuff.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Shows me where I stand with my promoter, huh?
Yeah, that's right. Well, not only that, but I mean, you don't live in Ohio anymore anyway.
Well, yeah, but that was more recently.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, I guess what I'm trying to say is, in the last year or so, you've really had a big change in your life.
I have. I've had a lot of big changes in my life in the last 2 years.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of those involve the fact that you now live in Montreal with your fiancé.
Yes, absolutely.
Ooh, look at you, being all romantic and stuff. I mean, this was a proposal on WrestleMania 29 day in New Jersey. So
yeah,
tell us about the proposal story, because if it's a proposal at WrestleMania, it's got to be worth listening to.
Well, Christmas that year, so it would have been I guess it would have been 2012 Christmas. I got my fiance Chris WrestleMania tickets because he had never been to WrestleMania, and I was living in Ohio. He's in Montreal, and New York was kind of, it took us, the same amount of time to get to New York, whether, I went there so whatever. So it was perfect for us just to have a nice little vacation away. Plus, it was a nice little Christmas present. And it was his first WrestleMania that he was ever going to get to go to. So I got him the tickets, and it was he was pretty shocked. He had no idea, and it was awesome. So then from there, we started planning our trip to New York, and I knew I was going to be wrestling on the Shimmer tapings and stuff like that at WrestleCon. So we had he actually got to meet like all of my wrestling friends that weekend. Like probably one of the most important people he got to meet was Amber Gertner, because she had heard so much about him and yet had not met him yet. So she was pretty excited for that. So then Sunday comes, and so Chris is like kind of antsy, and I don't know, like I thought it was just anxiety, like or like excitement, like we're going to WrestleMania. And then, but like it was throughout the day, and I was just like blowing it off as he was just excited about the show or whatever. So we get to the show and we find our seats, and the previous WrestleManias, this is going to make me sound like such a spoiled brat, but I had never paid to go to a WrestleMania prior to that, and this was my fourth one at the time. So I had never realized how expensive the seats actually are at WrestleMania.
Oh, yeah.
And so our tickets were pretty pricey, but I was like, you know what, where it shows on the map that we're sitting, the seats are going to be awesome, so it's cool, whatever. I'm okay with that. So we get there, and our seats are phenomenal. I mean, they're just beyond phenomenal. And next thing I know is our friend Pat LaPrade, who, if anybody's been in Montreal, been to Femme Fatale or NCW.
You've met Pat LaPrade.
You've met Pat LaPrade. And he comes down, and he's like, wow, your guys' tickets are a lot better than mine. And I'm like, how the hell did he even get down here? Because, like, he's way up top in the nosebleed seats, so I have no idea how he even...
Pat knows people.
He does, apparently, and apparently he knows the MetLife Stadium security. I don't know.
I bet he does. I'm not even kidding. I bet
he's
he
on
does.
first name terms with them.
So he's sitting there talking to us, and he's like, oh, why don't you guys go take a picture with the, it had the big New York, New Jersey, replica thing behind it that the WWE had built above the ring. So he's like, why don't you guys go take a picture with that? And I'm like, okay, no problem. So I think he's taking a picture. And then I'm like, what is Chris doing? He's down, like, tying his shoe or something, And Chris then, like, I actually look, and he's holding a ring, and he asked me to marry him. And then there's, it's the beginning of the yes movement. So everybody in the whole section is doing the yes thing. And it was crazy. It was amazing. I mean, for one of the first times in my life, I was probably speechless. Like, I didn't know what to say, but of course I was going to say yes. I love this man and everything. So it was amazing. And, a lot of people have been very, very supportive since then. And, we're very happily planning our wedding for next year.
Chris is a suave mofo. He really is. I'll give him 2 thumbs up for that.
And he got Pat LaPrade in on the scam as well. It was fantastic.
Yeah, and apparently there was like not a lot of people who knew, but there was a few people who knew. Like Sweet Soraya knew, and
she just knows things. Don't even question it.
She would have tortured it out of Pat. Don't worry.
Here's the funny story. Is I came for Femme Fatale one time, and Allison Danger and Sweet Soraya were both on the show. And the night before, usually, not all the time, but usually there's a Femme Fatale dinner where most of the out-of-town girls come in and they go to dinner, and everybody just gets to have a nice, relaxing night before we go kick each other's asses the next day. So this particular evening, and I'm sitting there, we got there maybe a couple minutes early, me and Chris, and we're sitting, he's at the end of the table and I'm next to him. So then Soraya comes in and Danger comes in. Danger is my wrestling mom, and I also look as Soraya as my British wrestling mom. So they pick up Chris, make him sit at the head of the table, sit on either side of him. So now I'm not even sitting by him at all. And awesome. Throughout the night, they are continually grilling Chris about his intentions with me, and making sure that he was an okay person to be in a relationship with me. So yeah, and you know how intimidating Soraya is, and you know how intimidating Danger can be. So imagine putting them both together and just tag teaming him all night.
God, I would have
with
just jumped
different
through the
things.
window, Jason Bourne style. Is it not? It's not worth it.
But no, he survived, and they both love him. In fact, every time that there's a femme show, Chris is like, "Is Soraya gonna be here?" If she's not gonna be there, Chris doesn't even want to come to the show. Like, he's supportive of me, but like, there's a lot of times where he's like, Soraya's not gonna be there. I mean, he ends up coming anyway if he doesn't have a booking. But if Soraya's there, he makes sure that he goes and says hi to her for sure.
Good Lord.
You got to win over Mama Soraya. She is one scary woman.
Yeah, because he had to win over Amber Gertner as well. So it's like he had to jump through multiple hoops to win your heart.
Yeah, and God bless him, because I don't know another man that would have done that.
That proves that he's a keeper, though.
Yeah, it does.
Yes.
If he's willing to go through all of that, and quite frankly, I think one of them would have taken most people down.
Especially Soraya.
Yeah. He's worth keeping around.
Soraya frightens fans just by looking at them, let alone her like giving you the third degree and asking you 50 questions, you know?
Yeah, wow. He is a keeper, and the wedding's going to be what, next year?
Yes.
Have you gone Bridezilla yet?
No. Actually,
I understand that's a thing, so you know.
Yeah,
don't pretend like you don't know what you're talking about there.
No, I know what it is, but like you know, I've not experienced it.
You watch Bridezillas.
There's a TV show.
Oh, don't pretend like you don't.
I don't know this.
Yeah, seriously, you will watch
shows about Bridezillas.
You will watch it, and you will hate everybody involved in it. It's almost as good at making people who you want to punch in the face as My Super Sweet 16.
Yeah, it could be probably worse too. But I think that Chris is actually going to be more concerned about everything than I am, because he already has visions, and these visions are grand, and I love them, but he is a little bit of a perfectionist, so I know that he's gonna want everything to, you know, of course I want him to be perfect as well, but I think he's going to be a little bit more paying attention to detail when it comes to some of the other stuff.
There's nothing worse than Groomzilla. That's even worse.
No, I don't think it'll be that bad. I just think that probably the both of us together will be a handful when it comes to actually working out the details of our wedding and everything. Because like I said, he has his ideas, and then I have some of my own ideas that coming together, it'll be fun for whoever we hire to work with us. And by fun, I mean a complete nightmare.
So I assume you're getting Franck from Father of the Bride.
No.
And you're getting married in the ring, of course.
No.
You're having Howard Finkel doing your introductions for your wedding dance.
Actually, that was tossed around for a little bit, but we decided that'll probably be too expensive and out of our range. So we decided that we're not going to have that happen.
Screw it. Get married in Vegas. You know, you like it there anyway. Go through the drive-through, get it done there, and then go to the reception and have Fink introduce you. Spend all your money on Fink. And then go to the Rio for your wedding dinner, because you know then people can have what they like.
Yeah, but I've been watching Legends House, and Finkel isn't as entertaining as I thought he would be.
He's old.
Yeah, but so is everybody else, and they're highly entertaining.
Yeah, I think you should invite Hacksaw Jim Duggan, though.
Yeah, well, I don't know if he would come to a Canadian wedding.
Maybe.
Well, then get Piper.
Oh, I would love to have Piper. That would be amazing.
But
I think this is more for a show than our wedding. I don't think that we're going to have that. Although, jokingly, Chris was telling everybody for a while that he wanted wrestlers to come to our show, or our wedding, and put on like a show.
We've seen that happen before.
So he's actually sitting next to me, and he's telling me to tell you the story of who he wanted exactly. And so what he wanted to have happen is us to come to our reception, and he has grand ideas of our reception, so I'm not going to spill those yet because it's going to be quite amazing. But he wanted us to be announced as Mr. and Mrs. Cruz, and we come out.
No. The new Mr.
The new Mr. and Mrs. Cruz, yes, of course. And then there was going to be some creepy music that hit. And if I were around my computer right now, I'd play it for you. But this particular wrestler's creepy music would hit. And then this man would walk through. And I'm sure as I explain this, you guys will figure out who it is. And start putting his fist out and like fist pump, like bumping people as he goes around. And I think Lee's already figured it out. So then he would come up to Chris and I. And he would try to, you know, put his fist out to Chris so that they could fist bump. And Chris would be like, no, this is my wedding. What are you trying to do here? And he would slap this person across the face. And then this person would turn around and, like, laugh and then clothesline Chris. And then I would try to run away in the girliest fashion that I could. And he wanted this person to pick me up and powerbomb me through a table, preferably the cake table. And
Yes.
and that person he wanted was Psycho Sid.
Yeah, just don't have your wedding during softball season, and I think that's possible.
Well, we have decided that we're not going to go with Psycho Sid to do that.
Oh, terrible.
But
anything you do now would be nowhere as good.
But I told Chris, I was like, if we were doing like, because first off, his grandparents would probably have a heart attack if anybody touched a woman in any sort of fashion as far as hurting them.
They know what you do, right?
Yes, of course they know what we do, but this is a wedding, and he's 100% Greek, so this is a very family-oriented wedding, and it's going to be religious in some faction. So having a woman being given a powerbomb through a cake table is probably not the brightest of ideas. Although I told him if it wasn't in my wedding dress, I would be okay with it. But I did not pay a lot of money on a wedding dress to get it ruined by being powerbombed through a table.
Oh, but if you video it, put it on YouTube and monetize it, I mean, that'd be even better than those people who do those weird dances on their first dance.
That's true. But
let's all dance to Thriller.
Yeah, we could totally dance to Thriller. I mean, that would be fun too. But no, so we have great ideas, and we're very excited about planning everything. I mean, right now they're just ideas. You know, we're kind of waiting until we get a little bit closer to start planning out the major details. Right now, you know, it's just kind of thinking of what day exactly we want to do it and when's going to be the best time for, say, my family to get here, and a lot of, you know, my wrestling friends being able to come, and you know, friends from out of the country and stuff like that. So
can I make a suggestion?
You can make a suggestion. Yeah. It doesn't necessarily mean that it'll be met, but we'll try.
Well, I'm thinking if you want to know who really, really cares about you and who really, really wants to be there, have your wedding take place on WrestleMania Sunday.
No way. Dude, Chris would miss our wedding for that. Hell, I'd miss our wedding for that. He was suggesting that we get married on WrestleMania Sunday.
Oh, imagine no showing your own wedding.
No showing our own wedding would be pretty freaking awesome.
That's money.
Lovely. All right, look, we've been talking to you, Steph, for almost an hour and a half, and I know it's been like 3.5 years since we've talked to you officially. But yeah, we need to probably cut this to the end here. So
okay,
dude, I know. I'm sorry. We should probably consider part 3 at some point in about 3.5 years' time.
Yes. Yes, definitely. I'm in. Schedule me for 3.5 years from now.
Okay, put it in the diary, Lee. Yeah. Steph, listen, I'm so pleased that, you know, everything's working out so well for you in your personal life. I love hearing those ideas. I hope at least some of them come to fruition. And I'm also pleased that things are going so well in your professional life as well still, that you're getting to wrestle matches that still excite you and still get involved in stuff which matters in wrestling, and that's all cool. And I mean, let me tell you, as a fan, as somebody who watches you wrestle, I still love watching you wrestle, and I'm not alone in that.
Oh, well, thank you. That really means a lot to me. Like I said, you know,